Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories, and here's another episode of Ramble On. First of all, Weird Al Yankovic, National Treasure. I was listening to Lump again, and someone brought up that Yankovic made the parody, and I had completely forgot about that song for like 25 years or whenever the heck he made it, which I assume was a year after, like immediately after PUSA, which is the funniest acronym for a band that I know of, made the song Lump. Weird Al Yankovic made Gump, a parody where he pretends he's Forrest Gump, talking about his friend Bubba Gump, which is pretty funny. Because Lump sat alone in a boggy marsh, and Gump didn't do that much different. So I was just watching the original video for I Think We're Alone Now, that by, Tommy James and the Shondells, and I'm really confused because if you unwatch that video right now anywhere, it ends like 5 seconds before it should. I think we're alone now. There doesn't seem, and then it just ends like right there in like right after one line, and Tommy just stops singing, all the band stops playing, but clearly there should be like another 5 to 10 seconds of them like, doesn't seem to be anyone around, da, 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 da. And there isn't. It ends extremely abruptly in the original official music video. Maybe they were running over time and whatever show they were playing on it first. If you know, let me know, bitofarambler@gmail.com. I'm curious. I always like these trivial pursuits, although I also do like complex factual pursuits, so hit me up with any of those also. Okay, so I finished RE5, Resident Evil 5. Fun game. One of the bosses is impossible, and I played that one might have been 10 times. I was gonna say 4 or 5 times, but no, there's no way. I played it 4 or 5 times in the first hour. I kept getting murdered by this monster. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe it's because you have a beer. Just play the game again in the morning. And I did. And I just kept getting my ass handed to me by this gooey yellow flower pollen monster. And couldn't figure out the pattern or whatever. I'm sure the YouTubers can do it. I couldn't. So after I played and died, even 10 sounds really low. I don't think it was like 50, but I'll say 20. Like, after I played this thing 20 times, easily dedicating when I was being real crappy, like 2 to 5 minutes, and when I was really trying to do it, like 20, 40 minutes, like really trying to pass this stage without any weaselly skipping the challenge kind of play. I just couldn't do it. So finally I bought a bazooka, which you can buy officially in the game. It's part of the game. And I bought it, shot it once, and the creature died immediately. And that was after I had sunk like 6-10 hours like into fighting it legitimately. And I was like, oh, you're just supposed to shoot it with the bazooka once, and then it died. Okay, well, that's frustrating, but it was definitely interesting playing it again like I was, 15, like just playing a video game. We're just like, all right, this is what I'm doing today, just playing a video game. That is definitely one of the boons of me traveling and, renting out rooms and bringing my fun gaming laptop, and I'm just sitting in a room, and when I'm not hanging out with people, basically when I'm not making myself be social or trying to broaden my social horizons, I really am just so free that I get to play old Resident Evil games, and it's kind of fun. Even if I lose to this ink putty monster 20 times and then realize that I'm doing it wrong. And I'll say, Resident Evil 3 really impressing me, very similar to 4 and 5. 8 was pretty good. Or no, sorry, 7 was pretty good. 8 was just So weird. Like, why was he in 8, Ethan, the main character from 7, it's a direct continuation of Resident Evil 7, acts like he has never seen a zombie or monster before, but the whole game of Resident Evil 7 is about Ethan fighting monsters and zombies. And then he gets to Resident Evil 8 and he's like, why is this man trying to bite me? It's like, well, he's one of the zombies you fought like 20 minutes ago. Like, it was 3 years ago that oh, right, 3 years ago, sorry. And I experienced these strange groups of people attacking me. It's like, wait, what? Like, everyone in the Resident Evil universe knows what happens. And they know what happened to Raccoon City and, like, the main storyline. They all know that zombies attack people. They reference it in earlier games. Like, yeah, there are zombies. There are people that die, come back to life. Their bodies don't function very well, and then they attack the living. And Ethan, who is he's the protagonist of 7 and has to deal with zombies the whole game for dozens of hours, wakes up in 8, is dealing with the exact same thing, and is like, this is so strange. Why are these people so angry? It's like, you know why they're angry, man. You've dealt with all of this before. Very bizarre plot direction they took that in, but I have to say, I do like the Village of Shadows, the storybook, and the art from the storybook, and the way they tell the storybook. I like all of that a lot. I think that's a great introduction. I think that's a great plot device. I think it fits every single part of the game. It's great. The only problem with the game is that Resident Evil is pretending that no one has seen a zombie before, which in the other games, you're like, oh, okay, because they use a different protagonist in each game. But 7 and 8 use the same protagonist, and he hasn't had anything weird happen to his memory. Like, nothing strange is blocking his experiences from before. He just sees a zombie and he's like, oh my gosh, there's a bitey human. Yeah, man, that you went through that for days, like a couple of years ago. You know what's going on. But he is pretending like he doesn't. It's a very strange choice. I feel like they're clinging too hard to tradition with this game design choice. Anyway, let's start on something else big and weird. I'm finally going to start Star Trek again, which I tried to watch the original one before, and just, boy, the production quality, the production value is so low. It's rough. And people always describe it as a morality plan. They're like, it's just telling stories. And I understand that. But I've always found Greek morality plays boring as well. I've never had a problem understanding morality. But so Lower Decks, an animated show of Star Trek, had 5 seasons, just finished. I thought it would be fun to give that a shot, and I'm watching it, and it's not that any references are flying over my head. I'm sure a couple are, but you can follow the story very easily. It's just not super compelling, but I watched this so that I could fall into the world and I could get it. And after a couple episodes of Lower Decks I was like, oh, I get it. Okay. People are just living their lives, and they just happen to be living in the future where they meet alien species. But really, they're just living their lives, which is fine, but not super compelling for me. And so I tried to go back and watch The Next Generation because I feel like I got it from the Lower Decks. I got the vibes of Star Trek, and so I could start watching the actual show. And I asked Lemmy, like, hey, where should I start? And a lot of people were like, anywhere. And one guy was like, you have to start with the original. Another one was like, you have to start with The Next Generation. And one guy, and this is the guy I believed the most, said, start wherever you want. It doesn't really matter. You just have to find something that clicks with you. And if you start with The Next Generation, which I believe is the second series that went, starring Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard, it's good, but it starts terribly. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting caveat. And man, I cannot make it past 10 minutes of the first episode of The Next Generation. Don't worry, everyone's screaming at their earphones right now. I'll try it again. I'm sure I'll make it past this blunder of an opening gambit that they have started with at some point, but I don't think they're going to introduce a philosophical or moral dilemma I haven't dealt with in another medium. So I'll just have to dip my toes back into the animated show and get back to the live action shows in the future. Oh, I finally found hypoallergenic soap here in Panama. I've been looking for it in every single store, and it's really funny because I finally found it in the House of Meat, La Casa de Carne. And I was like, La Casa de Carne? Okay, I should see if they have beef jerky. Because I didn't find any beef jerky except for these dried chorizos in Guatemala in the 4 months I was there. And I've been looking for beef jerky here, but the most they have is, what is that crappy American brand? Lynx? Jerky Lynx? I can't remember what it's called. But that stuff's terrible, and it's super expensive here. Probably the same price in the States, like $7 a bag or something. One of the tiny bags. So I'm not getting any of that. I'll literally just buy a fan and make it here myself. I'm considering doing that because it would not be very difficult, and I have a dedicated closet space for... Actually, I should probably just do that because I do want some beef jerky. Oh, anyway, I was saying I found hypoallergenic soap in this place called the House of Meat after I found some beer, because I was looking at their beer section that was 2 for 1. So while perusing the 2 for 1 beer in the House of Meat, I glanced over to my left and found hypoallergenic baby soap for a good price. And I was like, oh, okay, weird that this is here and nowhere else in the country or nowhere else in the city. But I'm very glad I know where it is. And now I have hypoallergenic soap. I'll let you know how it is. Ooh, speaking of Resident Evil, I had a rough Windows blue screen of death while I was playing Resident Evil 5. And then it all went blue screen of death and the computer restarted. But when it restarted, it just said media failed and then restarted again and said media failed, ... restart, media failed. And I was like, oh no, because that usually means that your hard disk is fried. Your hard drive is toasted and you have to get a new one. It's dead. So after I saw it, I think the third time, I just turned off the computer, hard shutdown via the external hardware power button. And when it was off, I went and took a shower. And then I was like, hey man, hardware breaks sometimes. You get a new computer. Your microphone probably still works. Everything's good. Just get a new computer and keep going. So I went back in my room. I turned on the computer to check, and it started up into Windows, which I was like, well, okay, at least one of the partitions is still living. But it was weird because it was definitely booting into the grub menu, which means for non-technical people, and I am one of you, don't worry, that before it boots into an operating system, it basically asks the computer, the motherboard, hey, which operating system should we load into? How should we start the computer? And on mine, I dual boot into Linux and Windows. And I get to choose when it boots up, Linux or Windows. And it wasn't doing that anymore. And I pushed the button F9 that lets you go into the boot menu so you can choose whether to boot into Linux or Windows. And that didn't work. But I noticed that it was after 1 a.m., which is the time that Microsoft likes to stealthily install their new updates. Do you mind if we install at 1:15 a.m.? I guess not, you creep, since I cannot decline the upgrades. And I just pushed literally every button on the keyboard and kept restarting it. And it turns out that Microsoft, what happened was I got the blue screen of death, in all likelihood, it seems like, because Microsoft stealthily updated while I was playing Resident Evil 5 on my computer. Didn't tell me, no notifications, and then in the middle of it, just install an update and everything broke. And so I had to turn off the system completely, let it sit, turn it back on, find the new button that had been rekeyed so that I could enter into the boot menu, and I found the part where they had changed the boot menu options from the grub to only Windows, just boot into Windows. So I changed it back to the correct setting, and now I can load into this Linux where I record everything and edit everything and do everything on a computer except for play games. Or if I want to play a game, I can now load back into Windows 10 and play games on that tragic system. But as far as I understand, there are things called Bazite now in Linux and other game-centric operating systems. So I'm probably going to install a couple of those and see how they work with my hardware, because I've really only heard success stories. And I would love to move away from Windows. It's just so convenient to use Windows to play games, but boy, if I don't have to use Windows at all anymore, there's nothing I would miss. The only reason I use Windows is to play a game. And if I can play the games on Linux, then Windows is gone. And if you know how to do this or have experience with me, hit me up. Tell me that it works with your system or whatever. I need some kind of external encouragement, because all of the warnings online are like, hey, by the way, if it bricks your system, by the way, if nothing works, it's not our fault. And that's what all of the open source stuff says, because that's just safe legalese. But it does seem like it would work totally fine from my extremely limited understanding of Linux operating systems. What else has been going on? Oh, man, my roommate, my neighbor, opened the door into the bathroom right when I was leaving and started telling me a story, which was interesting. And I was like, oh, maybe we should talk about it outside of the bathroom, because, your voice is echoing off the tiles like it's a chamber of sound. It's a megaphone. It's an infrastructural megaphone. And he was like, yeah. So we moved out to our doorways, but then he was telling the story and he kept getting more and more excited and told the story louder and louder and louder until someone had to come out and ask us to go to bed so that they could go to sleep, which is crazy, because if you remember the very angry cam girl who screamed morning to night every day, the thing is we have a whole bunch of new people in here, so I don't think they know the very loud family that was living next to me or the crazy cam girl who screams at people all the time. Except now there is a very loud Colombian who screams and keeps her appliances blaring all day. And that's the end of this place. High heels are crazy. I saw a girl walking in whatever pointed high heels, and I was just like, oh my God, that looks so uncomfortable. Like, she didn't look comfortable walking in them. I felt uncomfortable watching her walk, but there was no awareness in her like, oh, this is a terrible thing that I'm doing. This is painful for my feet. She was just it was like if she didn't have a leg and she was walking with a prosthetic leg, she wouldn't notice because she had done that always. And she was like, yeah, this is how I walk. Like, I have one real leg and I have one prosthetic leg. Like, this is walking. That's how she looked, this girl with the pointed high heels, even though her legs were buckling on every step and her ankles were twisting on every step. She was just like baby fawn crippling herself along the sidewalk. And that's how I feel every time I see someone wearing high heels. They look so uncomfortable and so unhealthy for your feet. Ooh, rough. But speaking of muscles, I did see something really cool today. A project has finally matured called BrainGate 2, and they don't focus on AI deciphering your chemical signals in your brain or your neurons. It specifically focuses on which muscles you are trying to flex and then reads your intended speech from that. And it has a 97% accuracy so far, a clinical accuracy that they're talking about, BrainGate 2. And I wanted to watch a video, and it's a very promo-y video, so I don't know how accurate any of their claims are, but I do like the fact that rather than trying to read your mind, basically, they focus specifically on the groupings of muscles and the extrapolation of, okay, if you're trying to use this muscle, you're trying to say this. And if you're using this extra muscle, it nullifies all of these other examples of speech you could be trying to say. So it's very accurate, apparently. And it feels like this is the next step to paraplegics being able to talk and interact with the world again. Really interesting. What else has been going on? Oh, Yoi Fried Chicken. There's this Korean fried chicken place up the street, and I've walked past it like 5 times. Oh, wait, before I started that, I got carbolic soap. Have you ever heard of that? It's usually like a bright, weird orange cherry color, like bright orange-red color, and the color is from the active ingredient inside it, which I can't remember now, and I'm not going to look up, but it also makes it smell like tar, and when I read that, I was like, oh, that's odd. I just thought it was interesting because I knew carbolic soap was a thing in the 70s. Like, it's an old-timey antiseptic soap. It's where the hospital smell comes from, basically. Like in a TV show or movie, and they're like, I don't like that hospital smell. They're usually talking about the tar-like smell that carbolic soap gives because it was a basic, fundamental antiseptic used in hospitals, as far as I understand. But I never used it because it sort of fell out of favor because the smell is so strong and it's so identifiable that if you see it and you get it, you know what you're getting. You're getting that tar soap that cleans things very well, but smells super strong, like a petroleum product. So a lot of people didn't want it. But I found it, $1.50, pack of 3 bars, and I was like, hey, I mean, it's clean, it's hygienic, might as well try it. And I used it for the first time today. And when I cracked open that package, I was like, oh, there it is. Because usually when you smell a pack of soap, you know, a hint of the smell comes out like, oh, that's aloe barbadensis. Or, yes, that is mango tangerine. And this time when I smelled the carbolic soap, there was 0 smell. And I was like, oh, this tar smell can't be too crazy. And then I cracked it open just now and I was like, oh, shit. Because every time I've gone in the bathroom, because I leave my soap in the shower room here, I'm like, oh man, that is potent. I don't even think I'm going to use the other 2. Or if I do, I don't think I'll leave them in there. I probably won't, too lazy otherwise. But I won't be getting that again because I found the hypoallergenic soap at, ironically, the House of Meat. And I don't need to buy orange tar soap anymore. But it is, I don't know, it's interesting. I'm really curious how healthy it is. I'm going to do a deep dive on it and just figure out, like, am I just rubbing plastic and rubber all over my body? Like, am I just rubbing oil on myself? I guess not, because they use it in hospitals for so long, so widespread, and it doesn't have an urban legend like the Vanderbilt studies. You know, it wasn't some awful thing that happened to American culture and the hygiene situation, as far as I know about. And it has a cool name, carbolic soap. Cool word, carbolic. So give it a try, but I'll look into it because it smells so strong. And all the descriptions online are like, it has a strong tar-like smell. Some people appreciate it for its hygienic scent. Others don't seem to like the scent very much. And now that I've smelled it, I'm like, yeah, it's smells like a refinery. Okay, back to the chicken. So I've walked past this Yoi fried chicken place like 5 times, and every time I walk by it, I'm like, ooh, fried chicken. But that great Korean buffet I know has fried chicken and like how many other, 2 dozen other Korean dishes for $14. And this place is like $10 for just the wings. So I'll probably try them at some point. But I almost went in there because one of my most exciting news, I talked about how I got this weird discount on the room for the next month, like 30% cheaper, down to $250 a month. And I was like, I don't know if I can get cash because you can only take out $250 in all of the ATMs in Panama, $250 US, and that's as much as the rent, so I won't have any left over for food, and the international ATM withdrawal fees are a big pain. But, oh wait, did I already mention this? Anyway, BAC, Creditomatic, the bank BAC Creditomatic, allows you to withdraw $500 US. So now I can pay for my rent and have $250 left over for my monthly expenses until I get my credit card, and I won't have to carry around a bunch of cash all the time. But really, it's not that much anyway, because $250 just goes to the hotel for the room for another month. But I mean, there were all these talks about, everybody online said that you cannot get more than $250 out from any ATMs. And one Panamanian tourist place was like, well, you can just go to BAC and then they give you $500. And so when I hear something, I try it out. If it doesn't work, fine. If it does work, great. And this one, I tried it. It worked great. I went to every other bank, and then I heard about BAC, and they don't look like a bank. They look like a international. They look a little more formal than a bank, and they're bright red, which is off-putting. So I didn't go to them before, but now I tried them. They have the $500 minimum instead of a maximum instead of a $250 maximum. Boom, money withdrawal problem is solved. It was great to find out. So now that I have the higher withdrawal limit, I have petty cash. I have cash just flowing around now, and I kind of want to go to this Korean barbecue chicken or Korean fried chicken place, and I want to go to the Korean buffet again, and probably Chinese buffet again. Oh, also, I got to go to the Panama Canal, man. I still haven't gone to the Panama Canal. Going to the Chinatown buffet would be a great excuse to afterwards go check out the Panama Canal. Oh, I don't know if politically it's a great time. You know what? I got a great story about that. I will tell you that on the next one, though, because I'm about running up on half an hour here. And that was like a whole thing, and I haven't really looked into what happened, even though it happened right next here, fires and cops and tear gas and everything. So I will talk to you soon, and I'll tell you about what happened. Thank you so much for listening. I love telling these stories. It's really fun. I'm so glad I'm finally keeping a log of my travels in some form or another. And I'm so grateful that anybody is listening to this. Because it's just like when I talk to people that I meet like in these hostels. I have these stories, they're curious, I talk to them, and then I never see them again. But it's pretty cool doing it here where I can see people I know are not me downloading these stories and listening to them as I bounce around the world. So again, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you soon.